Hi there. We are going to continue with Ketotarian, and today we're going to go through chapter 2. This one is going to be pretty short as far as the information goes. So in chapter 2, Dr. Cole talks a lot about plant-based diets and why they're so important and what the values are of the plants and why they're so critical versus just a standard keto plan that's going to care more about the macros and not the quality of the food that we eat. So check this out. Vegan and vegetarian diets and people that are going vegan or have gone vegan, which is another very popular and very intentional way of eating, have gone up 500%. The amount of people that do vegan or vegetarian lifestyles has gone up 500% from 2014 to 2017. That's outrageous. There is so many people doing that. That's just incredible. But there's a lot of challenges when you eat a plant-based diet because you're losing out on a bunch of nutrients that are found only in animal-based product or animal food, animal fats, and are not going to be as abundant in plant sources or even in supplements. So part of eating vegan is that you get a lot of detoxification and from the plants that we consume, right? And so that's a big benefit because you need to be able to clear out your body of the toxins that you have. So as Dr. Cole goes through what the Ketotarian plan is, he talks about how this is a lifestyle. It's not meant to be a diet to just lose weight right now or be a temporary quick fix. We have enough types of those diets in our society that we don't need to add another one. He goes through a list of different toxins that are in our food and that contribute to chronic inflammation. He also talks about there's a huge increase in the rise of, or there's a rise in the amount of autoimmune conditions that are being diagnosed and found today. And a lot of people are dealing with these, and at the core of autoimmune conditions is inflammation, right? So you have mercury, you have vinyl chloride, BPA, heavy metals, organic solvents, formaldehyde, and pesticides. So these are just some of the toxins that we are consuming on a daily basis, and these are found in our food, but they're also going to be found in any products that we put on our skin and even that we inhale. So scents and fragrances are going to have a bunch of these toxins as well. If you eat a plant-based diet, there is a lot of benefits to the plants being able to detoxify your body. And so that's why it's key to incorporate these types of food into your diet. Also, people that eat a mostly plant-based diet have lower blood sugar. It's just going to have a lower rate of diabetes. So then he continues throughout the chapter talking about how there are environmental effects as well if you eat a plant-based diet and how that benefits our planet. So there's the environmental concern too, and you're not dealing with some of the horrors that we hear about and that we know exist with meat sources and where meat comes from. Then there's a section in here that talk about some of the dangers or considerations that we need to have when we have only a plant-based diet. Where can they go wrong? What are some of the pitfalls? What are some of the things that we don't necessarily recognize? And this was eye-opening for me because it doesn't talk only about plants in the sense of vegetables and fruits, but rather it includes a lot of information about legumes and nuts and seeds, things that we consume quite frequently as well. And so he starts talking about how if you are in a plant-based diet and you're eating right now as a vegetarian or as a vegan, a lot of times you are supplementing your vegetables and your produce with carbohydrates and grains. And there's a whole host of reasons why grains cause inflammation. But it also recognizes that, hey, like, yes, it's our choice and our intention of what we put into our body and what we consume. Yes, at the individual level, we need to take responsibility for that. But we live in a grain-centric society. We live where you walk into a grocery store and all you see are grains or products that are made from grain derivatives. And this is where it becomes very challenging, because you need to be able to decipher what is in this food and is it healthy for me? Is it going to give me the best results? A lot of grains have been cross hybridization, and so they've been bred into new strands of grain. And so the food that we consume now, there's an argument that people will say, or a stance that says, well, you know, our ancestors have been eating wheat for forever, for years and years and years, and grains. Well, true, but there was a limited supply because it wasn't able to be harvested in such quantities. It was seasonal, and the amount that they consumed at the time of the food was small, plus the actual molecular composition of the grains were a lot different than they are now. Now our food has been transformed and mutated so that it's easier to produce, it's easier to grow. They can grow it in large amounts, and then we can have access to it all year round, and it's very cheap to produce. So then Dr. Cole goes into gluten sensitivities, and this was a big eye-opener when I read Grain Brain initially. And I always thought, from my experience and the people around me who had gluten sensitivities, they all had stomach problems. They all had digestion issues. And so it was very clear that if I consume gluten, I have this stomach issue. And so that's all I was able to correlate it with. And I always thought, oh, well, I have no gluten sensitivity because I don't have stomach issues after I consume gluten. But what I've found out over the past couple of years of looking into this is that gluten sensitivity doesn't have to do with only your digestive tract. You know, you might actually experience a lot of intolerance if you have a gluten sensitivity throughout your body. You might have inflammation elsewhere. And so most people actually have an intolerance to gluten and have no idea. So that could be headaches, it could be just overall inflammation in your body, and so your body and your cells are acting in the fight or flight response, which is just putting a whole lot of extra stress on your body and on your organs. So Dr. Cole spells out what are some of the symptoms of gluten intolerance, and then he says that it can be abdominal bloating, it can be ulcers, it can be intestinal pain. But as we've talked about before, our gut is our second brain, right? They're made out of the same material when they're in the womb. So you can also have issues in your brain for gluten sensitivity. You can have brain fog, it can be depression, there can be anxiety, there can be fatigue, there can be just the slowness that comes when your brain is not functioning at its optimal level. So the last couple sections, and I won't read them verbatim throughout chapter 2, talks about the different supplements that we need and the different vitamins, different fatty acids we need, and what the values of those nutrients are. But I do want to mention specifically lectins and phytates. So lectins and phytates, he said, are another type of protein found in grains, even gluten-free ones like rice and corn. So it says these types of proteins, right, the lectins and phytates, are highly indigestible by the body. And so when you are not able to digest food, your body is on overdrive, and it's causing inflammation because it's trying to fight off what you just put in it. So in these phytates and these lectins, what happens is you consume a food that maybe has a nutrient that you need, right? And he says that it actually, what happens is the food itself contains this nutrient. You consume it, you think, okay, great, I'm getting the nutrient I need, but that food also contains lectins and phytates. And the lectins and phytates, because they're indigestible, they not only are the problem causing inflammation, but they make the bioavailability, or the way that the nutrient actually gets dispersed into your body, essentially not work. So essentially you have no, you aren't getting the benefit of that nutrient. It becomes null. It becomes void that you even ate it, or it's such a small amount that is actually absorbed into your system. And so you need to be very careful of how to not consume foods with lectins and phytates, and what you can do to minimize the effect of those. And so for us, because we consume a ton of, or not a ton of, but since nuts and legumes are, commonplace for my family, he says that the way you can fight some of this is make the food more digestible by soaking the nuts, the seeds, the legumes, and he gives specific instructions in the book of how to soak them. So if you do this, then it pulls some of those out and it makes it a lot more digestible for your system. So chapter 2 is incredible, where it breaks down your nutrients and the things that you need, and the things that vegetarian and vegan diets are aiming to provide, and where to be cautious of them, but also where to include more plant-based meals and snacks and sides in your current diet. So check out chapter 2 if you have questions on it specifically, or you want to go through any particular part of the paragraphs or pages. Let me know. We can do a deeper dive into any of them. And have a great one. Talk to you later. Bye.